Good evening, everyone. My name is Louise Coyle. I'm the course coordinator for Business and Humanities courses at the Centre for Adult Learning and Professional Development at NUI Galway. I'm joined this evening by Dr. Michelle Comer, who will give a presentation on the Diploma in Irish Studies online and the Diploma in Irish Archaeology online. Just a little housekeeping to start. This webinar will be recorded. I'd ask you to turn off your cameras and your microphones for the duration of the presentations. Michelle will take questions and answers at the end of the presentation, and you can use the chat box for questions. And just to make you aware of some important dates, applications are open at the moment and they will close on the 31st of August. It takes approximately 2 weeks to process your application. Online student registration will open on the 24th of August, and that's a separate process from applying. Orientation is scheduled for the 3rd of September, and teaching will start the week beginning the 5th of September. Please note that it takes a minimum of 5 working days from the day you accept an offer until you have access to online learning material. So my advice is to apply by the middle of August at the latest, to give yourself plenty of time for the application to be processed, to complete the student registration, and to activate access to online services. If you have any queries after this evening, you can email artspt@nuigalway.ie, and you'll find further information about these courses on our website.
Before we start, there we go. Okay, so welcome everyone. First of all, as Louise said, my name is Michelle Comer, and I'm an archaeologist. I lecture in archaeology in the School of Geography, Archaeology and Irish Studies in NUI Galway. And I'm responsible for running these 2 diplomas, the Diploma in Irish Archaeology and the Diploma in Irish Studies. And both of these diplomas are delivered 100% online. So there is no requirement to actually travel to Galway or the NUI Galway campus during these programs. Now, both of these diplomas occur over the course of 2 years. They're a 2-year part-time program. And what I would like to do is talk a little bit about each one individually, and then some general information that is relevant to both of them. So we start with the online diploma in Irish archaeology. And I suppose the first question here that a lot of people might ask is, what is archaeology? And quite simply put, it's the study of the physical remains of the past. So while history is the study of the written word, we actually study the things that people made, the things that they built, the things they left behind. And we must remember, of course, that for most of the past, people were not literate, they couldn't read and write, so there is no written history for most of the past. So we must resort to the actual physical remains, and that's what archaeology is. And this particular diploma concentrates on Irish archaeology, the Irish past. And essentially what we do is we look at that story from the earliest human activity on the island of Ireland, about 10,000 years ago, and we work our way kind of to more recent times. So we start by looking at all the different eras of prehistory, the Stone Age, the Bronze Age, the Iron Age, all of the major events that occurred along that timeline. And then we bring it right through, the advent of Christianity and what happened in the centuries following that, all, the great events and pieces that survived from those eras, some of which you have heard of, some you won't. So you've heard of things like the Book of Kells and the Tower Brooch, but we will be filling in background, if you like, talking about the people behind all of these great things. And we will bring this story right up into medieval centuries, dealing with the Anglo-Normans and looking at things like castles and abbeys of the medieval era. The aims of the diploma are, well, there are many, and indeed some of these actually also apply to the Diploma in Irish Studies. So we want to introduce students, in this case, to the discipline of archaeology. We don't presume that you know anything about archaeology prior to this. So we start from the beginning, from scratch, and, tell you everything you need to know essentially about the discipline. Then, as I've just mentioned, we present the Archaeology of Ireland specifically in this particular diploma. And this is essentially 10,000 years of human activity on this island. We'll study aspects of current archaeological research. And I suppose that's one kind of special characteristic of the discipline of archaeology is that it's constantly changing. There are new discoveries constantly feeding into the story of the past. So we look at some of the current research that's underway. And both this and the Diploma in Irish Studies are designed to promote interest in Ireland's heritage, both at a national and international level. With both of these diplomas, our student body is usually a relatively mixed one. We tend to attract a lot of adult students, not mature students as we once called them. And because we're online, we also get students or participants from all over the world. I will describe in a moment how these programs actually operate and how they run, but they're designed to facilitate people living in different time zones so that everyone can come together and participate. And because of that, we get to meet, we get to work with people we probably otherwise would never meet or engage with. So it's a very rewarding experience in that sense. Now, getting into the nitty-gritty of what the diploma entails, this particular diploma. Well, as I mentioned, it's a 2-year diploma. Both years are divided into 3 sections. We call them modules or courses. So there's 3 in each year. So in first year, you'll see the 3 that you will complete, and another 3 again in second year. So first year, you see them listed there. You start with a module called Mesolithic to Megalithic, Ireland in the Stone Age. So this particular module covers the earliest evidence on the island of Ireland, physical evidence. The next one moves on to looking at the Bronze Age and the Iron Age. And then the final one turns to what we call the early medieval and medieval eras. So essentially in the first year, you get an overview of the full story of human activity in Ireland. In second year, then we build on that foundation and we begin to look in more detail at particular sites or case studies, initially from the prehistoric period, then from the medieval. And our final module in second year is the one that really looks at current archaeological research. In terms of kind of a timetable, well, we start with our first module in each year in usually around about early September, and we complete the full 8 weeks. And immediately after that, so there's no gap, we start the second module and we complete 4 of those weeks. So half that module before the Christmas break and the other half directly after the Christmas break. And then of course we move straight into the third and final module of the year. So this is how the timetable works. Now, all of these modules are delivered, as I said, entirely online. So the university has a platform for doing this. At the moment, it's called Blackboard. Okay, so when you apply and you're accepted, and eventually you register, you will gain access to this particular service. And when you log in, you'll see the first module of the year. You click on that, and then you'll see something like this. Okay, so this is kind of the contents page of one of the first year modules. I mentioned they're divided into 8 weeks. Well, you'll see 8 sections listed. I know you can only see 6 on this screen, but there are 8 of them, believe me. And then you click on whichever week you're currently in. So, and when you do, you'll see the actual content, or the information, the bones of the actual module presented on screen. So you'll see text, you'll see images, you'll see things like recommended reading, links to perhaps to recordings, to videos, etc. So all sorts of information is presented there for you. And we work through 1 week at a time, all together, all moving along together. Now, this is obviously a university program, and you will get a university qualification at the end. So there has to be some form of assessment, unpleasant and all as it might appear at first appear to be. So each of our 8-week modules, we do an essay at the end. So the entire 8th week of the module is just dedicated to writing an essay. Now, we fully understand that not everyone would have written academic essays prior to this. So we provide instruction and guidance on how to do it. So it's nothing to be afraid of. It's just another skill that you will learn as part of the diploma. But then we have kind of weekly tasks, and we do these on a discussion board, which is built in to our online course. And this is our online classroom, essentially. This is where we interact with each other. And this is what it kind of looks like. So when you click on the discussion board, you'll see this, essentially. A different section for each week. You'll click on the relevant one, and in there you'll find all sorts of discussions. Now, how do we organize this? It's not just random. In each of the week's contents, we'll be dealing with a specific topic. And there'll be a question embedded in there at the end of that week about that topic. And we'll ask everyone to answer that question on the discussion board, to write their answer, just a paragraph of an answer on the discussion board. And we normally ask people to do it, say, before the end of Thursday each week, in the relevant week. Then, before the end of Sunday of that week, we ask people to read 2 of their classmates' answers and to reply to them. So you'll end up replying to 2 of your classmates and going back into your own post and replying to people who have, responded to you. And that way, we get to know each other. We get to discuss the topic at the same time. So it can be a very informative process. It's not one that many people have done before they come to the diploma, but it's one you'll pick up very quickly because we do it kind of constantly. We do it every week. But again, I or whoever is lecturing you in a particular week will be in there with you. So there's constant guidance available. Now moving on to the Diploma in Irish Studies. It's a little bit different in that the Diploma in Irish Archaeology is a single discipline. It's all archaeology. But Irish Studies is a little bit different. It is, if you like, an umbrella subject, interdisciplinary. And this diploma essentially provides an introduction to the study of Ireland and its many, many different aspects. So these are the disciplines, the individual disciplines that contribute to the Diploma in Irish Studies. So you will be reading and learning about Irish history, a little bit about Irish archaeology. You'll be learning about and reading some Irish literature written in the Irish language, but we present it in translation, so you don't need to understand the literature in Irish itself. We will be looking at Irish literature written in the English language, sociology and politics of Ireland, and in our final module, traditional music and dance. So there's quite a variety of different disciplines. You mightn't be interested in all of them, but hopefully by the end of the diploma, you might be. So the general aim of this diploma is the same as the archaeology diploma, in that they're designed to, I suppose, incorporate or welcome everybody to this form of learning, especially people who don't have access to more traditional programs, whether it be, for work, family, or kind of geographical reasons. Specifically, the Irish Studies Diploma provides this introduction to Irish life and its many different aspects, using all of the disciplines I just mentioned. Again, our student body is quite a mixed one, and we also have participants from around the world, not just all over Ireland, but also, as you might imagine, in the US, the UK, across Europe, Australia, and sometimes in other places as well. So we get a good mix of people, which of course means that we get great discussions because different people bring different things to the group and to the class. Some of us do actually get to meet physically after successfully completing the 2-year program. We do, of course, have a conferring ceremony in person for anyone who would like to come along. And now here are the 6 modules of the Irish Studies Diploma. So the timetabling is exactly the same as the archaeology one. 3 modules in first year and 3 in second year. They are, for the most part, well, they're consecutive, but they're in chronological order. So in first year, we start with the kind of earliest era that this particular course covers. And that deals with what you might call early Christian Ireland, although it does look back to the preceding Iron Age a little bit also. That module and the second one, Medieval Ireland, they involve the disciplines of history, archaeology, and literature in Irish. Then the third module and the first module of second year, Early Modern Ireland and Modern Ireland, they involve the disciplines of history, literature in Irish, and literature in English. Then in second year, you move on to a module on contemporary Ireland, or kind of, I suppose, it's also partly kind of modern Ireland, but it concentrates on social and political issues rather than history and literature and all of that. And finally, we end with something a little different, and we look at kind of cultural elements and themes of Irish traditional music and dance. So probably, you know, I hope something for everyone in that particular lineup. Again, you know, when you log in to the system and you click on one of your modules, you find lots of information presented along the left-hand side of the screen there. You see lots of different menu items. But the one marked content is where you'll find all of the material that we're exploring and learning about. So you log into one of them and you'll see something like this, one for each week again. You click on one and you see some of the pages. Again, text, images, learning outcomes, links to required reading or watching, etc. The assessment is essentially the same. An essay in week 8 of each module, and then these weekly discussion board reports. So you saw how the discussion board is divided into the 8 sections. Well, when you click on one of them, this is what it looks like. A list of everyone's answers. And then you can click on the individual answers to actually read the text and reply if you so wish. And your lecturer will be in there with you. So the lecturer, be it me or one of my colleagues, will read all of the posts, we'll respond, we'll answer questions, we'll correct any mistakes, we might even ask some additional questions just to get the conversation flowing. Now, some general information that applies to both of the diplomas. Whilst we don't use live sessions, and this is because we want people with jobs, with families, and living in different time zones to be able to participate, we do still have a weekly schedule. It's just not live. So we have our discussion board assignment each week, and that has to be completed before the end of Thursday. Responding to your classmates has to be completed before the end of Sunday. And it's very important to stick to that schedule for 2 reasons. First of all, you know, work can pile up very easily if you fall behind. But secondly, and I think more importantly, we all need to be on the same schedule to benefit from the discussions. And the discussions are really our classroom. So this is where you get to know people and get to be part of the group. So it's a really, really important element of these diplomas. So the discussion board, as I said, is a very significant place. And many people mightn't have used one before. So we provide guidelines on how to do it. For example, you see some of them here. We remind people that it's easy to be misunderstood in the written word. Jokes and humor don't always translate very well. And the key to communicating on a discussion board is just to be patient with each other, respectful, and of course, to ask lots and lots of questions. One thing I would say about doing an online course is to read all the information that's provided. So Blackboard is the name of our particular system where you'll find all of these things. And on the menu, you'll find lots of really useful information. So things like course information, a calendar where dates will be posted, important dates like when essays are due, things like that. Any announcements that we need to make, things we need to remind you of or inform you about, you'll find a link to them there. We'll also post messages, within the group on the discussion board, so there can be useful information in there. We always have kind of an off-topic section on the discussion board for more social kind of chat and interaction. We also, of course, have the facility built into our system to have live video calls, just to get to know each other and chat about things in a less kind of formal way. We provide things like essay writing guidelines and all of that as well. So a lot of information will be there straight off the bat. It's also extremely important that once you register, you get your new NUI Galway email address, and all official communications will go to that email address. So it's very important that you can access it and that you do check it regularly throughout the entire program. So that's a really important thing to do after you've applied, been accepted, and register. Make sure that your email account is accessible, your new one. And key to any kind of education or learning is a willingness to ask questions. If you think your question or the answer to your question might benefit everyone in the group, ask it on the discussion board so that your lecturer, be it me or someone else, can answer it there and everyone can see the answer. But if it's something more direct, then do feel free to email your lecturer directly with your question. But always remember to ask. We don't expect you to know any of this stuff prior to taking the course. Okay, so don't be afraid to ask questions. It's one of the best ways of learning. So who can take these diplomas? Well, there's a very simple answer to that, and you see it there, everyone. We don't require any prior knowledge, just an interest in the topic and a willingness to learn. You will need to dedicate some time to, some hours kind of weekly to the program. And people often ask, well, how many hours does it take? There's no easy answer to that because we all work at a different pace and indeed to different levels of detail, depending on our interest in a particular topic. But I would say at least 4 or 5 hours a week. But I think, many students, once they get, stuck into the content in the program, probably do spend a bit longer, especially when they come across things that they're interested in. Why might you take the diploma? Well, many people take the diplomas simply on, for personal development or because they have a personal interest in the topic. Others might take it for work-related reasons. For example, you might want to work in archaeology, in perhaps an archaeological company, for example. You might like to work in the heritage sector, or you might already work in it and require an official qualification to move on or progress with your job. We also have graduates who work in education, teachers, for example. Or you might be looking at it as a tester to see if you actually like the discipline or the subject matter before you progress to further studies. Now, in relation to further studies, well, your options are, of course, a BA degree, a higher diploma, an MA degree, or indeed finally a PhD. And currently, most of these options are only available on campus, face-to-face. So that's something to be aware of before, before you sign up, if that's your intention. Currently, there are only a handful of online or distance learning options available. So again, just something to bear in mind. But we have had graduates of our diplomas move on and follow some of these further education pathways. And I'll end with just that reminder of not leaving it too late to apply. I would apply well before mid-August if you can at all, because under ideal circumstances, it will take a couple of weeks to get everything sorted and get you registered and get your access to everything up and running. But I would leave an extra week or two just in case of difficulties or issues that need sorting out, because it can be a busy time of year for the folks in those particular offices. So if you are interested, the sooner you apply, generally speaking, the better. So that's the end of my picture. So I'm going to stop sharing those there. And if anyone would like to ask any questions, now's your chance. Feel free to type them in the chat if you want to. So the cost, Joanne there is asking about the cost of the diplomas. This is the standard cost of the adult education diplomas. And I think Louise can correct me if I'm wrong, but for an EU student, it's just under €1,000 per year. It's, isn't it,
985.
985 per year. And for non-EU students, it's an extra €500 per year. Now, if anyone wants further information, as Louise said, you can email artspt@nuigalway.ie, and we can, answer questions or send on further information. Hello, Peter. Yes. Yes, the second year of the Irish Studies Diploma also starts in early September. So you should probably get in touch with Arts PT just to organize your return, make sure everything is in order for that. You're welcome, and we'll see you in September, Peter. Well, questions may occur to you, in the coming day or two. So don't be afraid to email them in, and we will answer them for you.
Okay, well, if there are no more questions, we might wrap it up. I've just popped the contact email address in the chat there for anyone who wants to get in touch afterwards. And just remains to thank everyone for coming, and thanks to Michelle for giving us a great presentation this evening.
Okay, thank you, everyone.